Today, we're going to talk about one of history's most important and, honestly, most overlooked superpowers, the Kushan Empire. You can pretty much think of them as the glue that held the entire ancient world together, this sprawling, powerful civilization that thrived right at the intersection of giants.
So let me just ask you this. What single empire was the absolute central hub for the Silk Road? You know, the one place where Roman merchants, Chinese diplomats, and Indian philosophers could actually cross paths? Well, the answer, it might not be the one you're thinking of.
It was the Kushan Empire. I mean, at its absolute peak around the 2nd century, its territory was just immense. We're talking about an area that covers modern-day Afghanistan, Pakistan, and huge chunks of Central Asia and northern India. They were, without a doubt, the masters of the Crossroads.
All right, so here's how we're going to break down their incredible story. We'll start with their journey from nomads to empire, then dive into their golden age of cultural fusion, see how they became the crossroads of the world, and finally, look at how the empire fell apart and what its lasting legacy is.
Okay, let's get right into it. Section 1. From nomads to empire. The Kushan story, you see, it doesn't start in some grand established city. Nope, it starts out on the vast, open grasslands of what's now northwestern China.
So, it all begins with a nomadic people called the Yuezhi. Back in the 2nd century BC, they get defeated by some rivals and are forced to make this epic migration westward. This massive journey eventually leads them to a place called Bactria, which was the old heartland of Alexander the Great's successors. And it's right here, more than a century later, that a leader named Kujula Kadphises does something pretty remarkable. He manages to unite the 5 scattered Yuezhi tribes and starts to build the foundation of an actual empire.
And yeah, Kujula wasn't just some clever unifier, he was a flat-out conqueror. We actually have Chinese historical records that tell us, even in his old age, he was an absolutely formidable military leader, pushing his army south and laying the groundwork for the massive empire his descendants were about to inherit.
So this strong military foundation, it leads directly to their golden age. Section 2, a golden age of syncretism. Now, what made the Kushans truly unique wasn't just how big their territory was, but their incredible ability to absorb and blend totally different cultures. This process is called syncretism, and they were masters at it. And you want to see the best proof of this? Just look at their money. Seriously, Kushan coins are this amazing window into how they saw the world. They feature a pantheon of over 30 different gods. You've got Greek gods like Helios, Iranian deities like Mithra, and Indian figures like Shiva and even the Buddha. All of them minted on the same currency. It was a true cultural melting pot. Their approach to language was just as practical. I mean, for their government and records, they basically took the Greek alphabet, which was already being used in the area, and just adapted it for their own Iranian language. They even added a whole new letter, shu, for a sound that Greek didn't have. They took what worked and made it their own. It's so clever. But this religious tolerance, it also had a massive, and I mean massive, global impact. The Kushan emperors, especially the legendary Kanishka the Great, became huge patrons of Buddhism. They protected missionaries, they funded monasteries, and that support is what helped Mahayana Buddhism travel all the way up the Silk Road, transforming it from a local Indian faith into a major world religion. And all of this patronage gave rise to one of the most beautiful artistic traditions in history, Greco-Buddhist art. In the Kushan region of Gandhara, artisans started sculpting the Buddha and other figures using the styles and techniques of Greek sculpture. I mean, this is the first time you see the Buddha depicted with flowing robes and realistic human-like features. It's a direct, stunning fusion of Eastern philosophy and Western aesthetics.
Let's move to Section 3, Crossroads of the World. Because all of this incredible cultural energy, it was powered by economics. Their prime location, their stability, it made the Kushans the absolute, indispensable hub of the ancient global economy.
Historians sometimes call this period the Pax Kushana, the Kushan Peace. Think of it like the Pax Romana, but for Central Asia. For about 2 centuries, their control over the main arteries of the Silk Road meant that caravans hauling Chinese silk, Roman glass, and Indian spices could travel pretty safely. And that security didn't just create a ton of wealth, it sparked this unprecedented explosion of ideas and exchange between civilizations.
And look, this shows they weren't just some passive bridge. They were a major world power, dealing directly with the other giants of their time. They had diplomatic and trade ties with Rome, they worked militarily with Han China, and they went toe-to-toe in both trade and conflict with the Persian empires to their west.
The full, mind-blowing extent of their power was only really confirmed by an incredible archaeological find back in 1993, the Rabatak inscription. It's written in their Bactrian language, but using Greek script. It's a proclamation from Emperor Kanishka himself, and it lists all the cities under his control, deep inside India, and boldly declares that he had submitted all India to his will. Wow. This was an empire at the absolute peak of its confidence.
But of course, from a peak like that, there's really only one way to go. Section 4, the Empire Fragments. Now we're going to see how this great power started to crack under pressure from new, rising rivals.
So what happened? Well, the fracture started after the death of Emperor Vasudeva I around 225 CE. The empire basically split right down the middle, a western half and an eastern half. And that division, that made them vulnerable. From the west, you had the new, powerful Sasanian Empire in Persia sweeping in. And from the east, the mighty Gupta Empire started to flex its muscles.
So the decline wasn't an overnight thing. It was this gradual process that took over a century. First the split, then the Sasanian conquest in the west. After that, the Guptas took over in India. And the final nail in the coffin came in the mid-4th century, when a new wave of invaders from the north, the Qadarites, just swept through and overwhelmed what little was left of Kushan power.
But here's the thing. Even after the empire itself was gone, its influence, that endured. And that brings us to our final section, the Kushan legacy.
So why does this forgotten empire still matter so much? Well, because they fundamentally shaped the world we live in today. They created the stability that let the Silk Road become a truly global network. Their art influenced religious imagery for 1,000 years. They were the essential conduit for Buddhism's journey to East Asia. And maybe, just maybe, most importantly, they proved that a vast, multi-ethnic empire could thrive not by forcing everyone to be the same, but by embracing diversity.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. How totally different would our world be if the Kushans hadn't been there to connect Europe, Persia, India, and China? Without them holding the center, would our world just be a far more fragmented, disconnected place? It's pretty fascinating to consider.
Hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive on the Kushan Empire, you should definitely check out the other explainers we have in our South Asia history playlist. And for more deep dives just like this one, make sure to subscribe to Notebook Summaries. Thanks so much for watching.